appears to be fighting at this level between countries and leaders, really they all answer to the same crew. They're all controlled by the same crew. This is the movie playing out of different people, and they do fight among each other. They bloody do. Anyone who's obsessed with power like that wants power over their associates, but they're connected and operating to the same basic agenda. And if they do get out of hand, well, someone much more powerful knocks their heads together. So like I say, these entities, they can't absorb any energy. They have to absorb energy that is within the frequency range that they're operating on. And they're operating on such a low band of reality and vibration that they can only absorb low vibrational energy, which we give them through low vibrational emotional output, hate, fear, stress, all these things. And there's a guy in Japan, Mr. Emoto, I spent a long weekend with last year, talked to him about all this stuff, and saw him again recently. He's the man that developed this process of freezing water and then photographing the water crystals which appear for a short time. And so by making different words and vibrational frequencies, by connecting it to the water, like putting words of hate or love on the side of the tank, then freezing it and then photographing it, he's been able to see the different effects of these different emotions upon reality. And this is a water crystal that was from a tank that had the words of love and appreciation on it. This is one that had the words hate all over it. It's a very different energetic structure, and it's this one that these entities want to absorb, therefore what they want us to produce. This again is the love and appreciation. This is a water crystal that had where the tank of water or the receptacle of water had a mobile phone tied to it. So what they want to do, and what they've been doing for centuries, is turning humanity into a war on itself to produce the stress, the hatred, the anger, all these emotions, which then feed into this interspace plane. And of course a war, like the two wars of the 20th century, my God, the energy of that kind that was produced then. I also almost fell off my seat when I watched this Disney movie called Monsters, Inc. Disney being one of these Illuminati corporations, as so many of the others are, most of them are, anyway, perhaps all, could be, probably is. And if you haven't seen Monsters, Inc., the story was that in the monster world, as they called it, they had no energy source, and so what they did, they had a power station in the monster world, and the people working for it used to turn up to work every morning, line up, and then these doors would come up in front of them, symbolic of interdimensional doorways, and then when the hooter went off or whatever, they walked through that doorway and they walked into a child's bedroom in the human world. They went into another dimension. And the monster's job was to frighten the child. When the child screamed, to catch the scream, the fear, in a tube thing, and come back into the monster world to then power that, because it had no energy source. And I thought, sod in hell, I've heard that somewhere before. And of course in the Matrix movies, the theme was of the machines, the controllers, feeding off human energy, and in the words of the Morpheus character, they have turned human beings into one of these. And that's one major level of what's going on, I would suggest. Another point that people say to me is, understandably, is when they're looking at it from a five sense level, is why would these people, all the way through history, why would they try to manipulate an agenda for the control of the world sometime in the distant future when they wouldn't be here to see it? Well, that's not the way it works. That's just the way it seems to work when you think this world is quote, real and solid and has a time. If you take this to be the human world, and this to be the line of history, we have a version of time which is just manufactured, which appears to give a sequence of events and all the rest of it. Within the interspace plane, they have movable time. They can move up and down this timeline. So they can come in here and they can control someone from the 16th century or the 15th century. They come in here, they're controlling people from what we call the 20th century, because the time is an illusion. So it's been the same entities that have been moving through what we perceive as time all the way through history. And of course, when you get across here, there's no time. And that's why that near-death experiencer said, there is no time, there is no sequence of events, no such thing as limitation of distance, of period of time, of place. I could be anywhere I wanted to be simultaneously. So can these to a large extent, and therefore they're moving in and out of this timeline. To achieve this, they want puppet people. And to do that, they have to control the coordinates that people have in terms of their perception of reality. And that's what they've done. And they've confused people into being confused, which is the state they want them to be in. And we look at the world and we think it's so complicated and complex and all the rest of it, but there is a very simple structure behind it. Because of what's been going on with the research into this conspiracy, and indeed our own bloody eyes now, when we look on the news and we see the world the way it is with the centralization of power, it's very difficult now to deny that a few people control the many. It was possible for a while maybe, but not anymore. So what they've done through this book by a guy called David Rothkopf, who worked for the infamous Kissinger Associates and was in the Clinton administration and stuff. He's written this book called Superclass, the global power elite and the world they are making. And what it is, in effect, is an admission that yes, there is a super elite and it does control events, but it's not coordinated and it's not controlled. It's like a fallback position. All right, we can't deny a few control the world now, so we'll have a fallback position. Yeah, they do, but they're not coordinated. It's just a loose connection of interests. You know, bullshit. In fact, it's coldly calculated and it's very, very simply constructed. And I want to go through a few coordinates now of how this group, this hybrid bloodline, with the goals that I've described, how it's structured society to bring about its ends. First of all, how can a few control the world? Well, pyramid power. In more ways than one. But this sort of pyramid I'm talking about now. Most organizations today, in fact nearly virtually all of them, are structured as pyramids. You've got the few at the top. They're the people that know the real game, what the organization's there for, its real agenda, what it's really trying to achieve. As you come down through the organization, you're meeting more and more and more people in the organization, but every time you drop a step, they know less and less and less about what the organization's really about. They only know their contribution. And the idea through history has been to structure society like this, to keep the people in general in ignorance of what they know. That's why this advanced knowledge has been passed over through the highest levels of the secret society network and been sucked out of the general population through inquisitions and ridicule and condemnation and all the rest of it. But every organization is structured like that. So the vast majority of people who are daily making a contribution to creating this Orwellian state have no idea they're doing so, or at least no idea what the end goal is and who's really behind it. This is Albert Pike, a Freemasonic god in America, and from the last century, or the 1800s actually, we're 21st century now, aren't we? What day is it? What planet am I on? And he wrote this: fictions are necessary to the people, and the truth becomes deadly to those who are not strong enough to contemplate it in all its brilliance. In fact, what can there be in common between the vile multitude, that's us, and sublime wisdom? The truth must be kept secret, and the masses need a teaching proportioned to their imperfect reason. So, what they're doing is that ancient knowledge, that ancient advanced knowledge I talked about, they have sucked it out as much as they can out of circulation through inquisitions and all this stuff, but they've passed it on and more across the secret society network. So at that level, not Joe blogs, the Freemason goes down the lodge, they do a nice dinner, not that, right up the top. They're working on a knowledge of reality that I talked about earlier, and they're using it to manipulate the masses, who they keep from that knowledge. And pyramid power works like this too. We think presidents and prime ministers and stuff are at the top of the decision-making process. They're not. They are positioned lower in the pyramid, and they are just vehicles for the shadow people to introduce changes in society through them. So you have an idiot like Bush, and he turns this stuff through legislation into law just by signing his soddy name, when he can remember it, on the bottom of a piece of paper. That's what they're there for. They are vehicles. They're not the source of the power. People say to me, so you say George Bush orchestrated 9/11? Can't tie his shoelaces, mate. No, I'm not saying that. No. Ridiculous. You're a journalist, aren't you? Yes, I thought you were. You thought that elephant was a duck, right? Yeah, I got you. I remember you now. And these pyramids are like Russian dolls. One doll inside a bigger doll inside a bigger doll, to create this global structure. So all these pyramids of the banking system, the transnational corporations, they're pyramids in themselves, like banks. They go into bigger pyramids and bigger pyramids until there's one that encompasses the whole of the banking system, one that controls all the transnational corporations, the political parties, the major parties at least that have any chance of forming a government, the media at ownership level, the religions, bloody come to that soon. The intelligence agencies at that level are the same agency. Mossad is the CIA, is British intelligence if you go up to these levels. Same with the drug cartel, etc. And so up here you have these bloodline families who are sending down these pyramids, all roads lead to them, the same agenda. And the basis of it is the constant centralization of power and imposition of will of the authorities on the people. And that's why it's happening across all these apparently unconnected areas of society, because they're not unconnected. What you have is one force operating through different sides in the movie. And while we think there are different sides as we experience the movie in visible light reality, we get confused about what he's on that side, and he's fighting him, and he's against him, and he's against her. But in fact, they're controlled by the same people. And you know, if you go into a football match and you control not one side to influence the football match, you control both sides, you know what the score's going to be before the teams go on the field.